Hello everybody. In this video we are going to set up the workspace to be the most efficient for this Flash class. Um, the lab has gotten a few new computers, a new Macs, and they have huge screens, so this really might not be too necessary for those of you who choose to use the Macs in the lab with the giant screens, but for those of you who are going to do the majority of your work at home, or you are going to use the PCs or any other computer with a smaller screen, this will be beneficial for you to set up. So the first thing I want to call your attention to is that there are a variety of different workspaces that you can choose from. So first of all, if we go up to the top, to the menu bar up here, where it says Window, in this menu there is a variety of things in this panel, and all of them refer to the actual windows that can be opened up onto your workspace. Those that are checked indicate the ones that are already open, like your timeline and your tools and properties and library and motion presets, and all of these are pretty common, and you will use all of these most likely. But if we go down to the bottom here to Workspaces, you will see the default, the ones that are already included. So the one that we're currently using is Animator. If we click Classic, you can see that the workspace will switch into a different configuration. This is Classic. Another place to access these workspaces other than the Windows panel is if we go to the top right hand corner of your screen, and you can see this little menu here. It's a drop down menu, so if I click it I can go back and there's debug. There's not a lot to this one, mostly code. We will avoid that. There's designer, developer, essentials. There's even one for small screens. So this one's pretty close to what it's going to look like, and to what we're going to set up. But I'm going to show you first. I'm going to show you the two that we're going to create, and then I'm going to show you how to create them. So the first one is the animation one. And let me close this real quick. So this is how it's going to look. We're going to have our properties panel to the right hand side. In between that, your library panel. And this is going to be important because this is where all the elements of your Flash files are going to add up. So this is good to keep a good track of those, and we'll make sure and keep this nice and organized. And the properties relate to anything that's on the screen. Just about anything that you have selected, this properties panel will change to reflect the specific properties to the tool or element or object or whatever selected. Underneath the properties will be the color and swatches. We'll probably use color more than swatches, but you never know. And then underneath that would be some more some other panels like transform, info, and align, and we'll get into that. Here is your stage. This is the most important area, I think. So this is where all the magic happens, and underneath that is your timeline, and the timeline is pretty much how Flash uses layers, and this is what you're going to use to make things move in time. So this is also really important. So we'll have this down here, and then your toolbar on to the side. So this is the configuration that we're going to set it up to. The other option that you will create is animation 2, and this one is slightly different. Pretty much exactly the same, except for the timeline will now be in between the tool panel and the stage. And this is because you're going to end up making a lot of layers in this specific character creation. So there's going to be a lot of layers, and this way you can partition your screen so you can get the maximize usage. So you can have your character stuff here and scroll through a multitude of layers without taking up too much space. So let's go ahead and create them. Let me show you how. So let's start off by using the classic. So these are all the same menus that we had, but now we're going to switch them around. So for the first one, you actually just grab these windows, these panels, by the name, by the little tab that sticks up. So I'm grabbing timeline by the word timeline, and now I can move it around. So now it's here, and all I have to do is drag it to the place where I want it. So I'm going to drag it to the bottom, and as you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but as you can see, this highlighted area pops up, gray highlighted with a blue line indicating that this is a place where I can lock this panel onto. So just going to drag it till I see that and then release. And now my timeline's down there. The motion editor, something that we're probably not going to use too much in here, but I'm going to add that back to where it was. And as you can see, when I drag it to next to the tab where I can just slide it in there, release, and now it's in there. So I can now toggle between timeline and motion editor by simply clicking the tabs. So pretty close. Now I'm going to have to break these from that tab. So I can grab these little icons, and they relate to their own specific windows. So if I click these double arrows here that expands the panels, there's my color and swatches. So I can grab this whole thing and just drag it down underneath the properties panel. And I'm going to do that a couple more times. So this is align, info, and transform. And I'm going to drag that underneath the color. So there we go. So I could just double click these and they minimize, or click them once, toggle in between these. Same with color and swatches. Right here, this is something that we're going to get to later on. This is code snippets and components and motion presets, but right now they're pretty much in the way. So I'm just going to hit the X and get rid of them. And I'm going to do the same with the project folder. Although we might get to this, we don't need it right now. The only other one that I want to switch around is library. So I'm going to pull that tab directly from the properties here. I'm going to do that again. I did that kind of fast. I'm going to actually pull library. So now it's on its own, and I'm going to put it right in between here. There you go. So this is the first setup. And in order to save this, you're going to have to go into your screen workspaces, and you can either do it from window or this menu right up here on the right hand corner, right on the top. And I'm going to click new workspace. And I'm going to title this one 233B underscore flash underscore animation. And I'm naming it that because this is the workspace that we're going to use when we're doing the bulk of our animation. And this is just a warning that you probably will not get, and all it's saying is that there is a workspace that already has this existing name. Do you want to replace it? And since it's exactly the same, I'm just going to say yes. And now, doesn't matter when, where, or what workspace I'm using, I can always go back to the animation one, and say if I'm working on something and I start moving things around and opening a ton of other menus and gets all kind of screwed up, and I can always go back to this panel and go back to reset 233B flash animation, and bam, it's back to the first one that we created. So, that's pretty special. Let's make the other one. And remember, this one is for when we're doing character creation. So this is kind of tricky, actually. This is really tricky. I'm going to throw these back together. For some reason, Flash doesn't like this one too much. So if it doesn't work right away, it's okay. Just be a little bit patient and we'll make it work. For some reason, if you drag the timeline and try to squish it in between here, you get this. You get this is where the timeline and the motion editor are now compressed. And so when you click it, it opens it up. And while it could be a space saver, I don't want it to do this. I specifically don't want it to do this. So it might help. It might take a couple times. Let's see, now it got all screwed up. Bear with me on this one. Maybe if I give it some space. Okay. This is not going to work for me. Okay. Alright, let's try it this way. I'm going to get rid of this motion editor. And I'm going to try and put just a single. Still no. Okay, so if you're running into the same problem, try this one. I'm going to detach the tools, and now I'm going to put the timeline in by itself. Ah, beautiful. Okay, so this is what I want, and now I'm going to try and put the tools back. And that worked. So this is exactly what I want, and before I do anything to screw it up, I'm going to save it. So in the working space menu, new workspace, and this one I'm going to name quite similar, 233b underscore flash underscore character, because this is what we're going to use when we do character creation. So okay, and there it is. So if it ever gets wonky again and I move this back and now it works perfectly. Anyway, you can always reset it if it doesn't. So take the time, do it right, and if you have troubles, make an arrangement to meet me in my office and we'll try and figure it out for you. Okay, I hope that was informative, and check out the next videos as we get into creating cool stuff in Flash. Alright, thank you.